Hi all, in this video we will try to focus on Ukraine's birth chart basically. So here in one of the videos based on one Ayanamsha, I thought Ukraine's ascendant would be Sagittarius, but after proper analysis I came to a conclusion that Ukraine is of Capricorn ascendant. So I will also explain what are the things that impacted my notion about this Ukraine's ascendant. So here I will explain you. First of all, I will try to explain one important thing, that is Ukraine is of Capricorn ascendant, and whenever there is something happening with Venus with respect to the ascendant of Ukraine, something like Venus is coming to Capricorn, Venus is transiting Capricorn, and at the same time if any other event is also happening, in any other significant event is also happening, something like, so in order to explain that, let's try to understand Ukraine is a part present between Russia and European countries. It looks like a buffer area between Russia and European countries in the world map, if you observe. So if Russia occupies Ukraine completely, then it can utilize the Black Sea portion of all the Black Sea portion of Ukraine, and also then it can directly have contact with European countries, right? All the European countries. The border is completely of Russia. It will be completely of Russia if Russia occupies Ukraine. So Ukraine is in the middle of this Russia and European countries. That's one thing. And so when actually Ukraine was born on 24th August 1991, and the time is taken as 5:31 p.m. and the place is taken as Kyiv, which is the capital city of Ukraine. So based on that, this is the chart, and why I am thinking Capricorn is the ascendant of Ukraine, I will also explain that. Because for Capricorn ascendant, Jupiter is a malefic planet, and for Capricorn ascendant, Sun is a malefic planet. And if you observe Venus here, in the 8th house Venus is present. So whenever a planet is going in the 8th house, it becomes it loses its strength, right? And one more thing is, this particular Venus is with the malefics Jupiter and Sun here. Jupiter and Sun are the malefics for Capricorn ascendant, because Jupiter is the 12th lord, that is Sagittarius, which is the Mula Trikona house of the Jupiter signs, and Sun of course is the 8th lord for Capricorn ascendant, which is a strong malefic for Capricorn ascendant stuff, Capricorn ascendant energy bonds. So here Sun is malefic, Jupiter is malefic, and Jupiter and Mercury are in very close conjunction at 2 degrees. So almost Mercury is also completely afflicted because of Jupiter's negative energy. And here Venus is living with this Jupiter and Sun. It also loses its strength. See, one thing is, it is losing its strength because it is present in the 8th house. And why I am talking about Venus more here? Because if you observe, so these are the stars in which the individual planets of Ukraine are present. So Sun is in Magha, Moon in Dhanishta, Mars, so you can just see it. Now I will show the Vimshottari Dasha of Ukraine So Venus Antardasha just started. Of course, Jupiter Mahadasha is not so good for Capricorn ascendants. So basically, so Jupiter is a malefic planet and for Capricorn ascendants, and the moment Venus Antardasha is also started, something like 31st July 2021 onwards, this particular Venus Antardasha also started for Ukraine, right? So the moment Venus Antardasha started somewhere around in December, so in July it started and somewhere around in December it clearly got some very huge frictional environment with Russia, right? Of course, even before that it was also present, but it is much more enhanced. It is much more enhanced in December 2021. So now Venus, the moment Venus Antardasha started, it is enhanced, and even more very recently Venus moved to Capricorn, right? Even today Venus is at 0 degrees or 1 degree in Capricorn sign, right? So one more thing I want to tell you why Venus movement is, Venus is very weak here in the birth chart itself. Venus is very weak for Ukraine. Why? Venus is of course the 10th lord. 10th house represents the government basically, right? The 10th house for Capricorn ascendant is Libra, which is, so the ruler is Venus, 10th lord is Venus here. So the Venus itself is very weak because it is sitting in the 8th house. It loses its strength, it lost its strength by placement itself. And also the malefics Jupiter and Sun are afflicting Venus even more, right? And one more thing is the Rahu, which is sitting in the 12th house, is also aspecting Venus with its 9th aspect. Of course, the aspect is not so exact because Rahu is watching the 24 degrees of this particular sign Leo. So Rahu is actually watching the 24 degree portion of Leo, but Venus is present at 4 degrees. Of course, even though there is some area difference, some degree difference, but still, right, Rahu has some impact on Venus. So this Venus is completely it is really not doing well here, right? And one more thing is the Crimea thing. Crimea was occupied by Russia on 18th March 2014, right? So that was the date Crimea was occupied. And if you observe what happened that time for Capricorn ascendant, the time the 10th house is filled with Rahu, Saturn and Mars energies, right? The ascendant lord Saturn is sitting with Rahu and Mars. Of course, Mars is a Yoga Karaka planet for Capricorn ascendant people or Capricorn ascendant energies, let me say. But here Rahu is sitting in Libra, right? So here Rahu is dominating this particular Saturn and Mars behavior. And totally, one more thing I want to tell, again, whenever Venus is, at that time also Venus was transiting Capricorn, right? Venus was transiting Capricorn that time, if you observe. So totally, so 10th house, see what happened that day, 18th March 2014, right? A Saturn, Mars, which are the natural malefics, but of course not the malefics for Capricorn ascendant things here, Capricorn ascendant energies, but with Rahu it is completely disturbed. The whole thing is disturbed because of Rahu. And one more thing is Jupiter has a 5th aspect on this particular Rahu, Saturn, Mars combination, and Jupiter is a malefic planet for Capricorn ascendant energies. Now what is the 10th house? Basically 10th house for any country is the government, right? So if you understand the 10th house things, let's try to say what is 10th house. Basically 10th house is the government, it is the ruler, it is the party in power, it is the government, head of the nation, right? It is all the things are about, all 10th house things are, it indicates the image of the nation. It is the government's nation, it's the government's image, it represents the government's image, right? So a well positioned 10th house in mundane astrology can signify reforms and under extreme influence. It's a kind of it's a positive thing when 10th house is filled with the 10th house things are transited by the positive energies. Then you can say there is something beneficial is going to happen for the country. But when the 10th house is under a malefic influence, the ruler and the portfolios held by the ruler will be under a kind of under a constant attack, you can say, right? So this can lead to loss of image to the ruler, and eventually some part of the nation can be occupied, so it's very normal, right? A benefic influence of course results in good performance of the country, and a malefic influence ultimately leads to losing the image of the nation, or getting some problems to the nation. So even the persons of power and fame, they also get some trouble, right? So whenever 10th house is under disturbance for any country, right, so it's going to be under trouble. So because of that, if it is Capricorn ascendant, then only there is a probability that on 18th March 2014 it could be occupied, right? So based on this analysis, you can say Ukraine is of Capricorn ascendant. And one more thing is, see, as we are reaching 28th February 2022, see 28th February 2022, in the Capricorn itself the 5 planet conjunction is happening, right? So the 5 planet conjunction is happening in Capricorn. So obviously here Venus is also present, which is the weakest planet for, the Venus energies are a kind of disturbing energies for Ukraine, you can say. But of course the Saturn and Mars, which are benefics, are transiting here. And another important thing is the 2 planets which are the purest malefics for Capricorn ascendant, those are Sun and Jupiter. Those are transiting the 2nd house of this particular Capricorn ascendant. Now, so this particular Saturn, Mars, Moon, Mercury, this particular these 4 planets, maybe they are, to an extent they are actually giving some kind of strength to even Ukraine is a small country, very small country, right? Even to Ukraine it is this Saturn, Mars, Moon, Mercury, this 4 planets are giving some kind of strength. But Venus, which is a weaker planet here, and Ukraine is running Venus Antadasha under Jupiter Mahadasha. Jupiter is malefic and Venus is strengthless. So you are expecting a kind of disturbance in the existence, because 1st house in the mundane astrology actually represents the existence of the country itself, right? As a country, as a country it can go forward or not, it can exist or not, it can form or not. So all those things we can understand by 1st house in mundane astrology. Whereas the 2nd house in mundane astrology is the financial backbone of the country. It is called as the house of finance of the country. So nation's wealth, all the resources, whether it is a national budget, whatever expenditure, health, material prosperity, the economy, the whatever the GDP you say, the revenues, gains, right, even the Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Commerce, you can say, investments, national resources, banking, all these things are mainly related to the second house only. Whatever revenue generating assets, in one word you can say resources of a country, right, that those are the second house. So the resources of the country are in danger for Ukraine here, because Sun and Jupiter together, they are transiting the second house of Ukraine, and at the same time it's running the weakest Venus Antardasha under the malefic Jupiter Mahadasha. So most probably, and even more, again Rahu is watching the ascendant here from the 5th house, it is watching the 1st house. Rahu is watching the 1st house with its 9th aspect. So obviously, right, so again the things are something like Saturn, Mars, Rahu relationship is formed here, Venus is entering the ascendant, and the second house is of course in danger. So with this you can say the resources are going to be very much impacted. Whatever resources the country Ukraine has, right, they can be drained out after 28th February 2022, because this conjunction is a rare conjunction. This kind of thing, having 7 planets in the 2 Saturn areas, and that too the space is also very less. The other video we saw something like in 50 degrees around, within 50 degrees of the sky 7 planets are meeting, and the whole 50 degrees area is under the control of Saturn, right. In the mundane level, in the in the general, when you analyze it, the Saturn, Mars, Rahu, these are all natural malefics. With that analysis, right, we could clearly observe there is something negative that's going to happen. And at the same time, if you analyze it based on the ascendant of the country also, right, so the national resources of the country, means the wealth, revenue and revenue generating assets of the country Ukraine are clearly drained out here, are going to be drained out after 28th February 2022. So this is the analysis. Thanks for watching this video.